Welcome to English literature class, my dear students. Now we are at line number 49. As you know, the chapter television is being explained now. Here, line number 49. The nursery shelves held books galore. The books cluttered up the nursery floor. And in the bedroom, by the bed, more books were waiting to be read. The shelves of books, the poet says, the shelves of books for young children in houses were filled with plenty of books. The shelves of books for young children in houses were filled with plenty of books. These rooms were scattered. He says, and in the bedroom, books cluttered up the nursery floor, and in the bedroom by the bed, more books were waiting to be read. Poet says, these rooms were scattered with more children's books. In bedrooms, near the bed, another lot of books of stories were available for reading. In these lines, the poet creates the alternate landscape to what has been mentioned in the beginning of the poem's setting. In this landscape, children's rooms and bedrooms are filled to the brim with books. Out of 4 lines, 3 end with exclamation, which is intended to shake the mind of the reader. This line, such wondrous, fine, fantastic tales. Now he says, which type of books were read in those times, in earlier times? Such wondrous, fine, fantastic tales of dragons, gypsies, queens and whales, and treasure isles and distant shores, where smugglers rode with muffled oars and pirates wearing purple pants, and sailing ships and elephants and cannibals crouching round the pot, staring away at something hot. It smells so good. What can't it be? Good gracious, it's Penelope. There were such wonderful stories in those times. In earlier times, there were such wonderful stories of dragons, gypsies, queens, and whales available for reading. There were stories about treasure islands, far away places where smugglers row boats noiselessly and sea robbers sailing ships. Also, stories of elephants and cannibals sitting around and stirring a pot, and they found the smell so good and wondered what it could be. He remembers that it is from Penelope's recipe books. By reminding the parents of what they themselves read and enjoyed when they were children, the poet tries to convince them of the power of the stories to entertain children in the absence of television. The younger ones had Beatrix Potter. Now, he tells the name of the books and the stories. The younger ones had Beatrix Potter with Mr. Todd, the dirty rotter, and Squirrel Nutkin, Pigling Bland, and Miss Tiggy Winkle, and just how the camel got his hump, and how the monkey lost his rump, and Mr. Toad, and bless my soul, there's Mr. Rat and Mr. Mole. Oh, books, what books they used to know, those children living long ago. The young children, now the poet says, the young children had books of Beatrix Potter. The author, Beatrix Potter, a famous authoress of children's books. Beatrix Potter, a famous authoress of children's books, who has created animals characters like Mr. Todd, Squirrel Nutkin, Pigling Bland, Tiggy Winkle in her stories for children. These were the characters in her books, in her stories. How the camel got his hump and how the monkey lost his rump are by Rudyard Kipling. This is also a poet. Mr. Toad, Mr. Rat, and Mr. Mole are characters in Kenneth Graham's books. The wind in the willows. He is reminded of books those children who lived long ago used to read. These lines pay a tribute to authors who wrote books for children. Beatrix Potter. Potter's books were known for the use of animals as characters and the various colorful illustrations. Examples. Also the poet mentions Rudyard Kipling and Kenneth Graham, who have created immortal characters for children. The poet gives the parents options for children to read. The line saying, what books they used to know, indicate that television caused them to forget the stories. Those children living long ago are referring to the older generation who plainly relied on books and not on television. Now, next line, poet says, so please, oh please, we beg, we pray, go through your television, go throw your television, set away, and its place you can install a lovely bookshelf on the wall. Then fill the shelves with lots of books, ignoring all the dirty looks, the screams and yells, the bites and kicks, and children hitting you with sticks. The poet says, the poet asks the parent, he requests the parent to throw away the TV set and replace it with the bookshelves on the walls and fills them with lots of books. He advises the parents to ignore the dirty looks. It may looks very dirty if the books will be kept in disorderly. They will look dirty. Ignore the dirty looks, screaming and yelling, biting and kicking of their children. They may bite, they may scream, they may yell, they may kick you, but don't mind and their attempt to hit parents with sticks. They will attempt to hit the parents with the stick, but all the things must be ignored, the poet says here. In this line, the poet makes an earnest appeal to parents to throw away their television set and replace it with a bookshelf, ignoring all the objections of their children. The poet concludes his argument formally calling the parents to accept his advice in getting rid of the television. In the next line, the poet says, fear not, because we promise you that in about a week or two of having nothing else to do, they will now begin to feel the need of having something to read. The poet advises the parents not to fear about the reaction from children having nothing to do. Within a week, the children will understand the need to start reading. In this line, the poet feels sure that sooner or later the children will turn to reading books to pass the time. In other words, when there is no sorry for interruption. In other words, when there is no TV and nothing else to do, children will need something for entertainment, and then will come the time when they will grab a book and start to read the same. When they will there will be no TV set in the room, ultimately they will read the book. And once they start, the poet says, and once they start, oh boy,